This is Josean Orta from Fit for an Autopsy, Omnifariam, and Tropiezo, and you're watching RichardMetalFan.
Hey, what's up, guys? Episode 316 of Richard Metal Fan Interviews, calling from Zoom, first interview of 2025. And I'm here with Josean Orta from Fit for an Autopsy, and he also plays drums for Omnifariam and Tropiezo. So, how are you doing today, Josean?
I'm good. How are you, man?
Not too bad, not too bad. It's a great afternoon here in Georgia. Where are you at right now?
I'm in Puerto Rico in San Juan. I just got home a few days ago from tour. We were in Europe, so I've been trying to adapt to the sleeping schedule and the time difference and all that stuff. Uh, I have family visiting and all that, so like I've been just trying to adjust to the home life, because I was away for almost 3 months,
Oh, wow.
at least 2 months of touring. I always leave a few days before band rehearsals to show up stress free and with time and set up my drums and so close to 3 months.
Yeah. And how has the touring been? The most typical interview question ever, as I always say.
Well, for me, at least from my experience about being in this band for being in Fit for an Autopsy at least for 12 years now. Uh, Last few tours have been insane, man. Like very humbling, very like we played a lot of rooms that we used to play supporting other bands, opening slots 6 p.m., 6:30 p.m. and now getting to play them headlining. It's very humbling. Like I never even imagined. So it's been incredible. Like I clearly remember, you know, a few nights on the last tour, me like ultra focused on my drums and my playing, and then looking to the crowd and wow, yeah, I've been here. I've been in this city before. I played this room, but like not at this time, not like this, not with that many people singing, not like I, I, I lately I keep finding people air drumming, so I'm like, oh wow, like it has taken a lot of years for myself, but like last few tours have been incredible. Like I think everyone in the band agrees that we've been able to accomplish things that we never imagined we would. We could only dream about them, but lately we've been able to confirm and to prove that it was all true.
Totally. Hey, that's great, man. So, kind of the format of the show is I want to do a rundown of your discography and talk about like your musical history, but take me back to young Jose and Orta. So, growing up in Puerto Rico, what were the first bands that got you into metal? What made you want to start playing drums?
Sure. The first time that I recognized the idea of trying to get into drums was when I got into MTV and VH1 at the time. I saw bands like Metallica and Kiss and Iron Maiden and Motley Crue, and I didn't know anything about music or drums, but those guys looked so cool to me as a young kid and the aggression of it. And I was like, wow, that looks great. Before that, I had seen a lot of Caribbean musicians hitting drums, and it looked aggressive also. But but the drums with the double bass and all these toms look so cool to me that I gravitated towards it. So I started with bands like Maiden and Kiss and Rush, and I got into rock and roll hard, man, like very young, like 13, 14 years old. I was consumed by the rock and roll spirits. Before that, obviously, by growing up in a place like Puerto Rico, I was surrounded by a lot of different music, tropical music, what people call salsa and stuff like that. Uh, that being said, all of that music, it's very rich in percussion, very rich in groove, and very heavy. People go crazy. So I saw a connection in between that type of movement and groove and rock and roll and heavy metal, But as a rebel kid myself, I gravitated towards the heavy stuff. Obviously, Metallica, stuff like that, like got me like very interested into the drums because I couldn't follow Pantera or Slayer or Napalm Death or any of that stuff. It was too complex for me. But I could follow Lars. So it was like, oh, this is cool. And then I discovered punk rock, and then I started trying to play to the Ramones and the Dead Kennedys and stuff like that, where I could like at least try to mimic. But there was a visual aggression that I gravitated towards. My first concert was Kiss here in Puerto Rico in '99. I was maybe 13 years old or some stuff like that. And it looked so cool. I didn't know anything about if they were good or not. Technically speaking, I liked wrestling when I was a kid, so it looks similar to me with like drums and guitars and fireworks, and the drummer is a cat, and I love cats. So I was like, holy shit! Like I love this. This is cool. This is what I want to do with my life. Obviously, I was a child. I didn't. In my head, I was convinced, but I didn't know anything about it. I was just, this is what I want to do with my life. I want to play drums in a band, and that's all I want to do. Now, me almost 40, because I'll be 40 in a few months, I'm like, fuck, man. Like, I promised to myself when I was like 13, 14 years old, this is all I'm going to do. And even though it's being very tough to accomplish, I'm still doing this thing at 40, hopefully. So it I clearly remember the day I promised to myself, yeah, I'm just gonna be in a band and fuck everything else. I've
Great
had
story.
a lot of stuff in between to make it work, and I've been blessed by being surrounded by incredible people that have helped me. Uh, but yeah, it started very young, man, and I became obsessed with drums and rock and roll and trying to play good and hardcore and punk rock and death metal and progressive rock. And I listened to a lot of jazz and African music. I'm always listening to music. The crazier, the better. It's wild, man.
Totally. And of course, like people know you from Fit for an Autopsy, see and stuff. Like, what were your bands like before you ended up joining Fit?
Okay, yeah, yeah. Luckily, at the time I was growing here in Puerto Rico, very rich local scene. That being said, we had a lot of bands, like even a lot of the same guys who start all type of bands, old styles of music, heavy music, hardcore punk, heavy metal, death metal, emo, you name it. So in the local scene here, at least I've been in like hundreds of bands probably. Like I had hardcore bands, I had more kill switch engage sounding bands. Uh so many, man. Like it will be unfair to mention everything because I will forget a few, but I had a band called Death Wish Bronson. I was in a band called Bajo Presión. I was in so many bands, and I ended up joining what was my favorite local band here in Puerto Rico. It was Tropiezo, which I still in that band. That band has been alive for 25 years, I believe. Uh, they're a little older than me, so I used to go to their shows and like just worship them, being like, "This is so cool." They're very political, and they're some of the best people I've ever met in my life. So with the years, we grew up in the same town, and I will see them at the grocery store or working out, and I became best friends with them. Like through the years, I forced myself to hang out with those guys and infiltrated my way into it, and uh, I started playing in the punk rock scene, and they were the first band that I got to experience some type of traveling with. When I joined, they took me out to New York City, to Boston. We played Mexico City. And later on, we played Europe. We did Japan. Super DIY stuff, super underground. But like for me, it was so cool that I got out of the island with my favorite band from home. They're my brothers now, my best friends. Uh, Obviously, that gave me a lot of the spark to check out the touring and be like, I think I want to do this with my life, you know? I still in that band. Every time I'm home, I jam with them. Like we record whatever we have, whatever we can. We just, it's very spontaneous, you know? We just jam and record without even thinking about it. Uh, I have another band that I'm still active with that it's a more death metal band. Um, Death metal sounding, I mean. Omnifariam. Those are also some of my best friends that have been in different bands before that never really got anywhere. And during pandemic, I came back to be home with my family. I was like, I need to play death metal and I need to play something heavy to not lose the chops. So whenever it's time to go back, I still have a little bit of it. So I was like, yeah, but if I'm home, I only want to jam with people I like, you know, and people I love. So the band was already established. I just pretty much infiltrated myself into it, and th- those guys are lovely. So they were like, "Yeah, man, we'll just jam with you and see what happens." And then I had to go through some surgery, knee surgeries for myself with both legs. So by being able to set that up and jamming with them in a room, that was like good therapy for me to build up my double bass again, and they allowed me to write whatever drum parts I could at the time to use it as an exercise, you know. And I fell in love with the guys again after many years, and the band and the dynamic and the chemistry that we have. So that right now, while I'm home, I actually have to record like 10 or 11 songs that we have that I've had waiting to have some time so I can record them properly. And you know, so yeah, man, like I've been in so many local bands, but it got to the point where I was like, "Fuck, man, I want to do this for a living." So that's when I ended up moving to Jersey and just went for it, man.
Yeah. And then of course that eventually leading up to when you joined up with it for an autopsy. So how'd you get to know like Pat and everybody? Because I remember watching you all on Garza's podcast. Apparently like you needed like a ride to like a convention and Pat hooked you up. So how'd you get to like meet everybody?
No, that story is true. I had friends in the tattoo industry. You know, I was cleaning tattoo shops and doing any type of job that will allow me to look like this, and where any type of job where being in a band wasn't that much of a thing, you know, or too weird. Because through the years, a lot of people and a lot of my friends that were in the tattoo industry were in bands, so it was a good excuse for me to, you know, to get away with being in a band and going away once in a while. So I met Pat because I needed a ride to a convention. That's true. It was random. It was through another friend of mine. Uh, we share info. I had tell him, hey man, I just moved here a few months ago to the city. I'm looking for a band. If you ever need anything or know about anyone, I like a lot of music. I like metal, punk, hardcore, reggae, you name it, man. Like I just wanna. I moved here to find a band and tour. I don't. That's the only reason why I'm around here, sticking and trying to figure it out. It's just so I can try to find a full time band.
All right.
We said goodbye and we shared info, and then like a month later, I think he called me. I was on my way to work in a different job, and I said yes before he finished his sentences. You know, so I said, yeah, no problem. We'll figure it out. We set up an audition, and then I showed up to a room where they had the audition going on, and that's where I started meeting some of the other members at the time. Those members are not around anymore, but that's where I got to meet Will Putney and all of those guys. And I didn't know who Will was or anything. You know, I was just so fresh and so ignorant myself at the time that I was just, I'm showing up to a jam session that, I try to play the music. I mimic, I fake my way through it, but yeah, that's where everything started. And now thinking about it, all those moments that changed my life. I didn't know it at the time. I just did it because it felt like the right thing to do at the time. I was like, yeah, this person is calling me to, Patrick called me to ask me if I wanted to audition. They have a full tour. Yeah, it sounded like a good excuse for me to get out, and starting to meet other people. And at the time, I didn't know if it was going to work out or if the band was going to do anything, or if anyone would, if I was going to be in the band. Or it sounded like a great idea for me to, yeah, to play different places for a month around the US at the time. It sounded crazy to me. I was like, absolutely, and the band was super small. We weren't making any money. I think our guarantees at the time were maybe $100 for the whole band. It was five of us on the road. Like that, we were struggling hard, but like I could see the commitment. Everyone was committed, and Pat was committed, and Will was committed, and I had moved just for that. So I just stick to it, and obviously through the years, members have changed, the relationships change, the purpose changes. But I just stick to it, and right now the oldest guys, the touring guys, the oldest ones are Pat has been the longest, then me, and then Tim and Joe and Peter. And uh, yeah, it's been like 12 years for me. And all of those moments, I didn't know that it was going to change my life, but I can remember everything clearly when I auditioned, and the room and the smell of the room and how I played. And it was crazy, man.
Yeah. And then when you joined up with Fit for an Autopsy, were you like listening to like the debut album, The Process of Human Extermination, or even the Hell on Earth EP and be like, I gotta play like this? Or did you want to like bring something new rhythmically to Fit for an Autopsy that they didn't have previously?
Sure. I had to listen to it to try to, learn as much as I could at the time. I wasn't necessarily at the time interested in playing that style. A lot of it sounded cool. A lot of it sounded like it wasn't my style. So I was worried. Yes, I was very worried about being able to deliver what I was listening to. So from the beginning, I was very. I felt like the band was. It was so early that I had a chance to bring my sound. I didn't know what my sound was, but that's where Will enters, and with the relationship that we've had through the years, he helped me find my sound. And then through the years, that has been like my agenda is just try to push for my sound in the band, respecting that he writes all the music. As the drummer, how can I make it feel a certain way? So yeah, like it was an interest of mine to have the room and the platform so I could explore all those rhythms that I had in my head, but I didn't know how to play them necessarily. I just needed a good excuse to get good at it. So absolutely. At the time, there was a lot of music that when I listened to their whole album, there was a lot of crazy drums there that I wasn't ready to play at the time. I didn't have the chops at the time. I had to figure out how to do a similar sound, or how to play something close enough. But I was lucky enough that when I joined, the band was still like very in the very early stages, very developing a sound. So luckily I was there when that started to really morph into what it's now. And you can clearly, if you pay attention to all of them, you can hear it where I can hear it, at least where I feel like I listen to some of my older some of those older albums that I've been on, that I've recorded, and I'm like, I feel like if it's not grooving enough, or I feel like, oh, I can hear myself struggling trying to make a groove, or I can hear myself too stiff, or because it's been like a long journey, and a lot of times by the time I recorded, I wasn't that ready because we've been on tour, we learn the music, record. So me, as obsessed as I am, I listen to it and I'm like, wow, man, like I can hear myself trying to go somewhere with the band, but we didn't really know where to go. We were just trying to find the sound, and all of this has been a big experiment. Luckily, we have someone like Will Putney that writes crazy songs, and he knows I'm obsessed with trying to get better at drums. So he gives me all this frame of work, and that I have like, wow, like if I play all those beats and I do all this toms here and all this orchestration, that will sound so crazy. So I've been fortunate to have like a good infrastructure to work with, like I don't have to overthink too many things. I get presented with the music, and then I had to figure out how to play that music, how to bring the groove, how to make it my own thing. And it's very challenging, but it has helped me as a musician, like to find my sound and to push the band and that thing. I've been fortunate because I've been able to explore and to push my drumming in a way that I didn't know I could push.
Yeah. But then of course talking about Hellbound Bound, so I love like this album. So what was sort of like the whole writing and recording process for like being this was like your first record with Fit for an Autopsy?
Mm-hmm. I keep saying that was my real audition, because I had to show up to the studio and really show what I got, because Will had some crazy songs. He had sent me files, and I was like, wow, I had to play those crazy drums. At the time, I didn't have those chops. I had to get better quickly. And now, obviously, because he's a great producer, he guided me and he grabbed from me the best I had at the time. I clearly remember the dates, the stress, the room. Uh, I didn't know that album was going to be what it ended up being. But I felt at the time when I heard myself at that quality, I was like, wow, that's how I can sound in a studio like this. Wow, I didn't know I could. Uh, that album changed my life because it opened up my brain to all of this world, and it took me on the road. Like it took me on the road. We started touring with cool bands. More people got interested in us, and it opened up doors. It took me to Europe for the second time. It took me to Australia. It took me to all of the US. We made friends with a lot of crazy bands. I was like, wow, this is crazy, man. Like, at the time, I was very happy with the singer we had on that album, Nate Johnson. You know, he was a legend at the time. He was a very known figure in that underground world. So I was like, I remember being in the studio, listening to him tracking those vocals on top of those drums, and I was like, wow, this is crazy, man. Like, I wasn't planning on being in a deathcore band or to be classified deathcore. I was just trying to play some heavy drums in a heavy band. I didn't know that some people were gonna like it. I didn't know that it was gonna matter to a degree. I was just happy to hear myself in a professional sounding album, and learning how to use a metronome to record and learning how to do all of those things in a more professional setting. Now I look at it, I'm like, yeah, I love it. I can hear my if you pay attention to my drumming, you can hear me I can hear the youth, I can hear the aggression, I can hear that I wanted to play fast and aggressive, that I was very angry, very hungry. I can hear it because, at least with the drum performance, it doesn't lie. I can hear exactly when I listen to it to learn songs or something like that. It takes me back to those moments always, man. And that's incredible.
Yeah, because I love songs like "Still We Destroy," like "Do You See Him," "Dead in the Dirt." Like all these songs are really great, and I love how on this album you worked with, of course, Brooke Reeves from Pending Doom, Vincent Bennett from Acacia Strain. Like, how did they end up like guest featuring on Hellbound?
Well, because Will was already being a producer and he had a certain relationship with a lot of different bands, he just felt that he had parts for different guys, and he was friends with all of them. And he was like, fuck, I have this part here, and I think Vincent will sound crazy. And some other time, some of the dudes will be hanging out with their friends and be like, hey, you want to do guest vocals on these songs? And they'll be like, yeah, so those were all decisions that were made out of the friendship that Will Putney and Patrick had with a lot of these bands. I was just so new to it. I was like, wow, you kidding me? The guy from Acacia Strain singing in a breakdown? What? Of course, I'm stoked. Yeah, let's do it. Uh, but I do remember being like blown away when I heard the final mixes.
And then going into the next album, Absolute Hope, Absolute Hell. I love this album. I feel like that was kind of where Fit for an Autopsy became the Fit for an Autopsy. So what was it kind of like going from this to this? It's kind of hard to like describe, really.
It was a scary process in the sense that we had lost a singer, so we had to find a singer. And Will had all these crazy songs, and I wanted to record another album, hopefully better, but we had no singer. And we were like, fuck, man. Like, I was convinced we were done. I was like, fuck, man, this is it. Like, I don't get to do this how I want to. This is the one album. That's it. And the guys, everyone just pushed through it. We were able to find Joe. It worked out. Will had crazy ideas for songs. I had to get good at drums because if you listen to the drums, they're different than Hellbound, like less primitive, a little more grooves, like a little more technical, a little more progressive sometimes. Very primitive stages, but like time, I was like, wow, good. Like I don't have it takes. I couldn't understand a lot of the rhythmic patterns yet. My brain wasn't ready for it at the time, but I wanted to do it. So yeah, we tried out Joe. It worked out, and then we started to morph into this other style of music. Like I said, I've never thought about deathcore or death metal or play this a certain way. I was like just trying to play drums to the music presented. And I remember listening to the final versions with the new vocals and more melodic vocals, and we didn't know Joe could do certain things, and I didn't know I could play certain things. And I was like, wow, it sounds so different than Hellbound. And we were obviously in a search of a different sound because we were playing with so many bands that were cool, but to me sounded so similar. And I was like, well, I can't blast like that. I don't play that technical. I don't. What can I do? What can we do as a band? Like, because we like all this heavy stuff, but we don't want to do one thing. We like so much music. So by adding Joe, we just added some layers for us to be like, what if we do this? What if we do this? And Will went crazy with melodies and stuff that he was like, wow, now I can write like this. And he just opened up possibilities for us.
Yeah. And of course, this year does mark 10 years of Absolute Hope, Absolute Hell. And I still think this, like I said, this is a great album. So how do you feel about this album now, 10 years later?
crazy, man, like crazy, because I never imagined that I will get to talk about it 10 years later. You know, at the time, I just wanted to be in a professional sounding album so I could show it to people and be like, hey, I play drums. This is how I sound. I didn't know the band was going to go anywhere, you know? I just kept showing up to the job. Uh, Humbly, I can tell you that now on the past tours that we did some meet and greets and we get to connect with a lot of our friends and fans. It's crazy to me to listen to the stories about, hey, I picked this up 10 years ago and I like this song and this song and I like this and I like this lyrics or I like this guitar solo. Or that's crazy because I can relate to that. I'm a fan of music myself and I have albums that I picked up when they came out. And whenever I meet those guys, I tell them the same things. Hey, I bought this when I was 15 and this changed my life and it's the craziest shit ever. So for someone like me that I don't think about those things ever, I just like to be in a band, getting to hear it now, because there is a lot of work documented to the years and all these albums and a lot of touring, and I can look back and be like, oh wow, like of course it's crazy, you know. And I want to be in a million albums. The day I die, I want people to search my name and be like, oh shit, he did like 200 albums. In what time? You know, like that's all I wanted to do, you know. So yeah, it's crazy for me to get to talk about it now and to, because I'm always starting my playing. I go back whenever we need to figure out a set list. I go back and I listen to whatever I need to learn, and then I'm like, oh wow, I used to play this different. Like I'm a complete different drummer now. You know, 10 years have gone by. I've changed. My taste changed. My chops change. The body changes. You know, so.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and of course this album was of course the how I discovered you guys. I discovered you guys on this album cycle. I think it was like around 2015, 2016. Ever since then I've been a fan of you guys since then.
Thank you, man. Yes, that's beautiful to me, you know, because I love music.
Yeah, yeah. And being as this album is now 10 years old, I know we have the new album that's out now. Now, is there a chance we could get a celebration of this somehow? Maybe throw in some deep cuts on a tour?
Yeah, that's something we discussed. It's just a matter of it's very tough for us to choose a set list, you know, because we want to do a little bit of everything. I'm not sure if we will do an actual tour for it. Joy at some point, you know. We're still in that phase of trying to choose which songs to play because we're pushing the new stuff. But yeah, we're always open to try whatever the best idea is. Like we're never too close-minded about ideas. We discuss every possibility, and then you know the best idea wins.
Yeah, because like with every album that you release, it gets like harder and harder to make like a set list because there's always the fans that want the greatest hits, and there's always like the diehard fans that want like the
Absolutely.
deepest cut from like the Hell on Earth demo and stuff.
Absolutely. And for us, we also want to play stuff that we enjoy. And sometimes it's not even the same song that you like, you know? So sometimes I want to get to play this obscure song because there's a certain drum part that I want to get better at it. So by playing every day, I get to really, really morph it into what I want it to be. And uh, there's songs that just, as a musician, they just feel great on stage. Maybe it's not a fan favorite, but for us, it allows us to have fun and to look like we're having fun. And if you're attending a show, you'll be like, oh wow, that band looks like they're having fun. You know, so it gets tricky for us because we are getting older. We want to have a good time, but we want to give people what they like. But we also need to push for what we like. We can't play only the singles. We can't play only the fan favorite album. We've always believed in pushing forward, going forward. That's why we try to not repeat an album. We rather make mistakes and try different things and new things or things that we've never done before than repeating the same thing. Like we rather, I think a lot of us rather fail trying something else than the same thing, you know. That being said, there's not a real formula, there's not a guarantee that anyone will care. It's all an experiment.
Yeah, totally. I agree. And then going into flash forward to 2016, kind of breaking away from Fit for an Autopsy, you did like the 2-song demo with Hate Diplomacy, Don't Join Them, Beat Them. It's just like I still love, I think it's pretty just kick ass. So how did you end up playing drums with them?
Well, I've known Dimas, the guitar player, for a very long time from the local scene in Puerto Rico, the hardcore scene and the death metal scene. And at the time, he was just in the New York area looking for people, and he couldn't figure it out. And I needed some money because I was struggling myself, and I was he was like, "Hey man, like I'll give you like I don't know a few bucks if you just show up and jam with me and record whatever we come up with. I have these ideas, I don't know what to do with it." And I was like, "Fuck man, but I don't have a lot. I don't have enough time, but I would love to. I love playing. Any excuse for me to getting to play." So I think we jammed for a few hours one day, like if we jam today and we record it tomorrow, it was very spontaneous. Like that's me jamming, really, to whatever riffs he had. I had no time to overthink the drum parts or to make sure it was correctly or if I liked it or not. It was like he was like, "Yeah, that's sick, dude." Like so it's all based on pure friendship. Like he's a beautiful guy that I've known for very long, and he just asked me if I could help him, and I did whatever I could at the time, and he was able to find some other people and jam, and then he took it from there. You know, I forget I did that. That's cool that you mentioned it.
Yeah, you could thank Metal Archives for that shit.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, but then of course that same year, you're with Fit for an Autopsy, you did the Depression session split with, of course, Acacia Strain and Thy Artist Murder. So how did you all end up like working on a split with Thy Art and Acacia?
Well, similar to what I said previously with Will having the relationship with all of these bands, these were bands that he was actively working with at the time. He was working with Dayar and Acacia Strain, and we were touring with all of those bands too. So it was just an easy thing when it came to, well, we all hang out anyways. A lot of times I'll be at the studio getting ready for a Fit tour, and the Dayar guys will be there working also. So we will hang out, drink coffee, go to the bar or whatever. It was just, yeah, it made sense at the time. Whoever made it, you know, I had nothing to do with those decisions, but it just seemed to make sense at the time. Uh, and I didn't know fans were gonna like it either. It was like, oh wow, like a lot of people still mention those albums because people that knew Dayar got to know us, or people that were into us got to know them, or people that were into Acacia got to know us, and it just helped everyone, I think. And also, just for a fanatic like me, I was just very stoked to be in the same album with established known bands that people consider to be good bands. I was like, wow, like I didn't know about who IR was until I got to meet those guys on tour, and then we became good friends. I was a little aware of Acacia, yeah, but getting to be in the same album is like, that's crazy. This is what people listen to. That's crazy, and they will listen to my drumming next to those guys. They're all great, you know. So at the time, it just made sense.
Yeah. And then moving on to The Great Collapse.
Mm.
I love this album. So what was the whole writing and recording process like for this?
It was normally the writing is similar. Will just presents us with a lot of crazy ideas. You know, we show up home from a tour, and then 2 days later, I have a Dropbox link with crazy drum patterns all programmed, and they sound crazy and they sound great. So I'm like, wow, how do I do this? How do I play all that stuff? A lot of times, and at that time specifically, a lot of the stuff was out of my reach. I really had to work on it and get good and spend time on the drums, not thinking about it, actively playing the drums. So it forced me to get into the room. He had a different studio back then, so I will beg him to be like, to let me go at crazy times after work so I could practice because I wasn't ready for it. Uh, at the time, also, I was, I had a family, so I was trying to divide into, wow, I need to spend all of these hours in the studio, but I also need to work and take care of home. And it was I remember clearly how tough it was for me to balance all of those things. That being said, it was a time where maybe the first time that I felt like we had a sound. Uh, Previously, we were trying different things, and when I heard the mixes on these songs and Heads Will Hang and Black Mammoth, I was like, wow, I think we have our own sound now. Because it didn't sound like anything else I was aware of at the time. Uh, I didn't know where I was going to go with my drums. I just played the music. These are the parts. Will is very meticulous about what he wants. So my job at that time specifically was just I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I wasn't trying to impress myself. I just wanted to give him whatever he wanted. When I heard the final versions of the songs, I was like, wow, dude. And sonically, it sounded so cool.
Yeah, and I agree. Like you were mentioning earlier, like every album's like an evolution. I feel like this album is like the next evolution in the Fit for an Autopsy sound.
No, I remember feeling that way at the time. And I remember feeling like that I think it was the Heads Will Hang video. When I heard it, when I saw it finished, I was like, people get to see that? Wow, yeah, this sounds sick. And I'm a heavy music fan, so it sounded heavy, but I couldn't, I didn't know what it sounded like. And that's why I like it. I'm like, I don't know what it sounds like because people say all these different things, but I don't know. I wasn't thinking about that when playing those drums. I was just thinking about the music, the beat, the pattern, the feel of it. I'm not thinking about Slayer, Gojira, Pantera. I'm not thinking about names of bands or styles. I'm like, here's a riff. This is the beat. This is the groove. How do I play it? And that's what you get.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, I pretty much consider this probably like my second or third favorite album from you guys. And I actually, the first time I ever saw you guys was on this album cycle. You did that tour with Arch Enemy and Trivium, and ever since then, I was like, wow, this band is fucking great live as well as on CD.
Now that you mentioned that, that's a good example of that album made legendary bands to be aware of us. Imagine me getting to tour with Arch Enemy. Like I have all their albums because I'm a big fanatic of Daniel Ireland's on my whole life and his brother also.
Yeah, very underrated drummers in my opinion.
Absolutely. So when I hear that we got an offer for it, I'm like, what? So that's a good example of, yeah, that album made us aware to certain bands, more popular bands, more established, real metal bands, legendary names. We got to tour with Arch Enemy, with Trivium, learn from them. Imagine us being a baby band, learning from those people every day. We got to tour with Sepultura. We got a Hatebreed tour. We got a Obituary tour. We were like, what's going on? So it was the first time that I saw materialistic success. Even though we weren't making any money yet, we were starting to get good ass tours with like good bands. So I was like, wow, this feels awesome. I was still opening those tours, but in better places, better sound, respected bands. The people that attend those shows are there because they love music. So I'm like, oh wow, people are aware of us now. And yeah, special album also.
Yeah. And then the next album, The Sea of Tragic Beasts, a great album. I consider it like a next step in the evolution of the sound, especially now with Joe singing. So, what was the whole writing process like for this?
It was maybe, I remember I worked a lot on the drums. Maybe I was so obsessed with it because we've had some uh, success with the one before. I remember being in the studio overworking drum parts, too worried, too stressed. But I also remember feeling very confident about the performance, whatever I was doing at the drums while recording. I remember feeling like, yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that's the sound. I remember being very satisfied with how the drums sounded and the cymbals that I used and the newer songs with different grooves. Uh, the only downside is that we didn't really get to explore those songs and take them on the road because COVID happened shortly after. We only did a few tours, maybe a couple tours on it. And I didn't get to play a lot of other stuff that I only played in the studio while learning it and recording it. There's a lot of drums there and drumming that I haven't really learned since I recorded it. Uh, I remember being very happy with Joe's performance because of the vocals that we had. He was trying, and yeah. But before that one, I wasn't sure about what I was doing. On that one, I was like more confident about my drums, if that makes any sense. I was like maybe the first time where I felt like I will play a take and be like, yeah, and will be like, yeah, and I didn't feel so insecure, because I spent so much time in the studio overthinking it, practicing, that it gave me some type of confidence.
Yeah, because of course you mentioned like you were like on Sea of Tragic Beasts, you were touring for a little bit, and then of course like the pandemic happened. And I know it really kind of like fucked up the whole music industry, and it was a lot of hard time for like musicians and stuff. And for you personally, how did you manage to deal with that? Did you try to like work with like do like other projects and stuff to help keep your mind occupied and just forget about that?
Absolutely, yeah. I was obviously worried. We had a lot of tourings and a lot of stuff that got canceled over close to 2 years of touring that got canceled. So we had no jobs. I had to find a few different jobs, retail jobs, and uh, whatever I could do to survive. That's when I made the choice of coming back to Puerto Rico to be with my family because I will never, I never get to see them. I'm always on the road. I don't know how long of a break that was going to be when no one knew for how long we were going to be uh, away, but I was like, yeah, whatever time I have left, I'll go home. But then I found out that I had some issues with my legs that I had to address because it got worse. So I came home to Puerto Rico, found some different jobs, went through the surgery, and just by having my family around and my old friends and jamming with Omnifariam and Tropiezo, that kept me occupied and helped me heal. I I had to skip one of the albums from Fit. I wasn't able to move to be able to record it. Uh, that was something very tough for me. Something that took me years to accept, to be able to talk about it. Uh, But being home with my older bands and going through therapy and trying to get healthy again, and all of that stuff helped me to go through those times, because I had something to do, if that makes any sense. So I never went. My experience through that whole time was I didn't miss touring. I was just trying to get back to being able to play the drums. You know what I mean? So I was convinced I wasn't gonna be able to tour at this level again. I was just trying to play the drums again, if that makes any sense. And if I wanted to be in fit again, I had to do a lot of work to get there. But the band needed to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Uh, so it kind of sucked at the time, yes, to go through the process that I had to go through. Because, like I said, I had no guarantee that I was going to be able to tour for a living or play double bass like that anymore.
Yeah, because I know also, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, in 2020 you did, I guess, some other session stuff, yeah, I believe, because I know you played drums with Great American Ghost on their album Power Through Terror. So how'd you hook up with them? Because I know it's another like Will thing.
Absolutely, yeah. That's exactly how I hooked up with it. It's just we have toured with them before. We have played shows with them before. They have been at the studio hanging out. Those guys are friends with our band, so they needed a guy, and I was like, "Hey, man, I'll do it." I'm just happy to be on records. I want to record and play with as many people as I can, and I knew the drums were gonna sound killer. I didn't know any of the music; it was too fresh. But it's like it doesn't matter. Whatever we end up doing, the quality of the sound is gonna be great because our boys are making it. So uh, same. I was just trying to get out there, do more projects that keep me busy, occupied. Maybe make some little money on the side to try to pay for my cell phone and all the basics. Uh, but yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly how I cope with it. I just try to get busy, either finding whatever job I had to find or more projects. Any excuse to stay busy.
Yeah. Yeah, all right, totally. And then even though you didn't play drums on this album, I want to talk about your last album, Oh What the Future Holds. I thought this was a great album. And then of course eventually he's played some of these songs live. So did you try to like match to how they were played on the album, or did you like add like your own little spin to the songs?
Both. I obviously have to respect the work that was done. Uh, Matt, who recorded it, he's a great drummer, a great producer also. So yeah, I had to respect what he did. But there's some stuff there that was like, wow, I don't have the time to figure that out. I have to get these songs ready soon. So I was relearning how to play drums while trying to learn those songs. So at the time, I had to really learn how to do things differently. That helped me find new tricks, a new approach, my relationship with the drums. There's stuff that I had to play different. I am a different person, and I don't think I can play it better than him. That's what he documented on the album, and that's that. Uh, there's some other stuff that I've had to change to make my own, to try to make it feel more natural for me. I will say a little bit of both. It depends on the parts. There are parts where they need to be played very close to what it's in the album, and there's other parts where I can, as a player, as a drummer, have fun with the music, without compromising the song. There's things that we learn through the years are more important than others when it comes to a song. So I, yeah, I'm guilty of sometimes changing too many things, and then I go on YouTube and listen to the song, and I'm like, that doesn't even sound close, man. I need to go back and learn it how it is. It also remember that we play these songs hundreds of times once they're recorded and we take them on the road. We play like, I wish I could count how many times I played Black Mammoth. So it's expected that through the years you'll hear different versions of it, sometimes on purpose, sometimes I'm not sure. That's just how I played that day, you know. But the question, I will say yes, a little bit of both. There's a lot of stuff that I try to play like the person who recorded, Matt, and there's other stuff where I'm like, I don't think I can do that, but I can do this, you know.
Yeah,
Try to respect the music first of all.
totally. And then, of course, that same year, you joined up with Omnifariam, and you did the Summoning EP, which I've heard listened to that in preparation for this interview is just fucking punishing. So, how'd you end up hooking with those guys? Because, of course, your fellow Puerto Ricans.
Yeah, same. That was during pandemic. I needed to jam with a band that will allow me to grow, in the sense that I didn't know if I could play drums anymore, to play death metal or crazy double bass. So I straight up told them, like, I just need a band to jam where I can write my own drum parts and build them as an excuse, as an exercise to build up to what Fit for an Autopsy does, because I couldn't do it at the time. And they agreed. They were so patient and they jammed with me, and they saw me struggling step by step, trying to get my chops up, getting stronger every rehearsal. And those songs that we recorded, I can hear myself struggling to play it, but I did it on purpose. I was using my limitations at the time and the pain to try to write something cool, be like, oh, this sucks. I'm in pain. But I can hear that on the music, and I think it works perfectly for that type of music. I can hear the suffering on the drums, even though it's not my best performance or the most technical. Or I wasn't thinking about that. I just wanted to do some crazy, dumb stuff, fun with my bros, uh, using it as an excuse to use that to get better. Okay, now I can play this. I need to make that better and better and better. So it was very organic.
All right. And then again, we're getting almost there. We're talking about Tropiezo. You did Existe un mundo mayor, pero es muy caro. Girl, tell me about that because like you mentioned before, that band's been active for a long time, but this is, I believe, your first record with the band. So, what was it like playing with on that album?
Well, that was also during the same time. It was a decision that we made when I found out that I had to go through surgery. I was like, fuck, man, like, we had these songs that we've been jamming. Let's record them, because I don't know when I'll be able to get back to this, if I'm able to. So we just pushed through it. I was working a shitty retail job, making the minimum. And then at night I would show up to the studio and just do a song or two, whatever I could, physically. I was broken at the time, so I was like using it as an excuse to create something while suffering. Also, I'm like, I couldn't move, man. Like, I needed to get surgery on my knees and do therapy. And so I was recording all that music, all those songs, with my legs broken, on purpose, waiting for the surgery dates. But I was like, fuck, I want to create art at my worst, like, let's do this, because I'm not sure when I'll be able to do it again. And I want to create something and document something at my worst, while suffering, while being in pain, because when it comes to the drums, that doesn't lie. So it was an excuse for me to find some positivity on the on the negativity I was going through, because it obviously sucked. very hard. So I was just trying to stay positive, being like, well, yeah, but let's make an album. But you cannot walk. Yeah, but let's see what we can do. Yeah, like trying to like, not let myself be too depressed.
Yeah. And you play with like a lot of different bands, like with Fit for an Autopsy to Omnifariam and of course with Tropiezo. So with playing with all these bands, like how different of a mind frame is it depending on the project? Do you have to be in a certain mind frame with the different bands, or do you have like are able to like bring like free reign with any of the bands that you play with?
Obviously, Fit for an Autopsy has become a different animal. It's very strict work. My drums there have to be what they have to be. The work, it's very serious. We take it very seriously. Yes, we have fun, but it's very serious for me. I have fun once I'm done. That being said, with both of my bands here, let's say Tropiezo is just pure fun, where we can just hang out and play the music and not worry too much. And Omnifariam is a good in between because it's a little more technical, more primitive than Fit for an Autopsy, but it's also a conscious effort of us trying to create an environment where we can have fun. Yes, we want to write music, we want to write shit that we are stoked about, and we hopefully want to share it with whoever is listening or interested in listening. But it's for us first because we are fans of the music and we just want to be able to do it. Uh, when it comes to my local bands, to with Tropiezo and Omnifariam, there's no consequences, there's no deadlines, there's no real business with labels or any of this stuff. So it's very free in that sense. If I cannot, if I'm not gonna be home, I can tell them, "Hey, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna be home for 4 months." Even though it's annoying and they get frustrated because they want to play, they understand because they're my bros and we've been doing this our whole lives and they understand my position and they're like, "Yeah, man, just go and kill it. And when you come back, we'll continue. So it I it is completely different. Yes.
All right. All right. And of course, last but certainly not least, I want to talk about the latest Fit for an Autopsy album, The Nothing That Is. Definitely a great album, one of my favorite albums from 2024. So, what was the whole writing and recording process like for the new Fit for an Autopsy album?
Well, with what the future holds, we saw some type of success, right? Because after COVID, when that came out, we started touring and shows had gotten better. We had more people aware of the band. We got some cool tours, cool festivals. And we're like, wow, we need to really step this up. This is crazy. We never imagined that we were going to have this type of success. And, the songs came very fast, very late. We were worried because we had to record by a certain time and we had not heard anything. And we were like, fuck, we need to get into the studio, man. Like, it needs to be good. It needs to be good. And I remember we were maybe in Thailand or Philippines where when I heard some of the first versions that Will was sending us, I was like, fuck, those songs sound cool, those grooves sound great, but let's get in the studio, man. Let's do it now. Because I was so worried about having enough time. And I was so anxious about getting to the studio and getting to work on it because I had to miss the one before. I was like, fuck, this is like I've worked so hard to be here. I can't wait to be in the studio and to try my best. Uh, I didn't know I could play like that. That's just the magic of what we do. Is like Will push me to play that type of stuff. Those drums that you hear when you hear the new album. Those are takes and hundreds of takes of me in the studio suffering, trying to get the good stuff. Documented. Different fills, different parts. I felt like it was something I wanted to accomplish because I had the issues with the one before, and I didn't know if I could do this again. So it was like a revenge for me. Like it was like I need to get back to it. I need one more album at least. If it's the last one I make, it's the last one. If it's not the best one, it's not the best one. But I need to do it. Like I need to go there and dude. Like when I finish everything, that I started listening to the songs with Will and checking that we like the drums, I couldn't help hold it together. I was like, got a panic attack, went into the bathroom. Like I was like, wow, that sounds awesome. Like I have to play all those drums now, because remember I'm tracking everything. It's so much information. Like I will do 10 different versions of a fill and then he will have them in the computer and be like, okay, I have something there to work with. Next part. So I'm not even sure of which part are going to end up in the album until later. I just continue, continue, continue. Once he feels he's got everything, then my job is done. I just wait and he will choose whatever he feels is the best for the songs that he wrote. I just have to give him everything I have. So I remember getting a panic attack, being like, wow, this I remember the sounds, the drums sounded so good, just raw, natural, how it was captured. I was like, and then I played some type of stuff and grooves that sounded so cool to me, and some fills where I'm like, wow, I do sound angry. I do sound like I needed to play those things. So yeah, and maybe the first time where I like every song also.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, musically, did you want to pick up where the band left off with "Oh, the Future Holds," or for you, did you wanted to continue and continue it after through the Sea of Tragic Beasts, or did you wanted to also try something new or different that Fit for an Autopsy hasn't done before?
Absolutely. That's something that I don't even worry about anymore because we're always going to try something new or something that we've never done before or to try to hear us in a way that we've never heard us before. Uh, Sometimes we might repeat it, we might make mistakes, but I don't, at this point, through all these years and making so many different albums, I don't have to worry about anything else other than just performing the best I can for the song. Like I insist, as a drummer, I don't think about styles. I don't think about is it deathcore? Is it too soft? Is it too melodic? Is it a break? I don't care about any of those things. For me, it's very important to play the song. And I have a person who writes all these songs, and it's my job to respect the music and try to give the music whatever it's needed. In that sense, I go into the studio with no ego and I follow my leader. He tells me where he wants to go. If there's parts where I have a very confident, solid idea, I will push for that for sure. But the most important thing for me is the song. If you listen to our album, the first song doesn't necessarily sound like the second one or the third one. It's the same band, and you can hear elements, but I have to approach them different. So I'm not thinking about styles of music. I'm thinking about the music I have in front of me at the time. What do I need to play this? If that's a trash riff or it sounds like a trash riff, that's cool. What's the best option for it? So uh, in that sense, I don't have to worry about it. I just trust the process now.
Yeah, because like every song sounds like different. Like a song like "Hostage" sounds different than "Savior of None, Ashes of All." Sounds
Absolutely.
different from the title track. Like the so I'm guessing like every song captures like a different mood or an emotion that you're feeling with at the time.
Yeah. Which the cool thing for me as a player is that it forces me to listen to a lot of different music to keep my brain stimulated and to understand all these rhythms, right? Because Savior and None sounds like more Swedish, right? But how can I play it correctly if I don't know that sound? how can I play certain grooves good if I am not aware of that flow, that sound? So it forces me to listen to a little bit of death metal, a little bit of hardcore, a little bit of tribal African drum crazy music. It forces me to listen to a lot of progressive rock and a lot of jazz and different drummers, places where I can learn how to understand all this vocabulary, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, I know that Will's gonna send me some crazy shit that I'm like, what? How do I play that crazy time signature? How do I play that crazy fill? I don't know that. Well, if I listen to a lot of music, my brain is not. It, it's more familiar with that stuff. A good example I can use is I remember listening to a lot of Meshuggah before these songs were presented to me, and my friend was like, "Wow, you're listening to Meshuggah every day now." I'm like, I don't want to necessarily. I'm just doing the exercise because I know that in the music that Will sends me, there's gonna be one or two or three crazy Meshuggah-ish patterns or parts that might feel like that I need to be able to understand. So if I don't listen to this music, I won't know how to approach it. That doesn't mean I know how to play it. I'm just trying to understand this flow, this groove, you know, and it keeps it forces me to to listen to a lot of crazy stuff to keep my brain up to date because it's easy to lose it, man.
Right. And of course, like you mentioned before, like the band just always like involves and tries new things. But I like how you also try to like evolve, but maintain what makes fit for an autopsy. So in a way, is there like any challenges to like evolve, but maintaining what makes the band sounds like the band?
Sure, it there is a challenge. I think I used to worry about that more. I am convinced because I've been able to see it through the years that once all the members get into it and Joe adds his voice and I add my drums and the guys add their solos and their guitar parts, it starts to feel like fit for an autopsy. And that's a crazy magical thing that I don't know how to explain. Obviously, the source is the same. Will writes everything and he presents everything to us. But it's so crazy to me to feel like we have so many different styles, but it still sounds like fit for an autopsy. There's a lot of things that we will try. There's a few things that we probably will never do because there's certain rhythms and certain stuff that we probably will be like, yeah, we don't play that type of stuff. Uh, I all I don't know, man. I think that it's once we all get together, it's just it's magical, man.
Yeah. Of course, talking about the nothing that is, of course, the album's been out now for a few months. And how has like the overall like feedback and response been for it?
Dude, incredible. Like we just did some of our biggest headlining shows, you know, like we've never been a really like a headlining band, you know, we've never at least we never saw ourselves like it. Uh and it's been incredible. A lot of new people that have become aware of the band because of this album. A lot of new people at our shows. Uh we were doing the meet and greets. People were telling us crazy stories about how they perceive the music and it's incredible, man. It's I can humbly say that it's stuff that I always wanted to do, but I never imagined I was gonna get to experience it. You know, it was a childhood dream. You know, I get to live it now. It took longer for me. I'll almost be 40, and some of us are older. It has taken us longer than a lot of other people that we know. That being said, I only hear good stuff, man. Like I don't pay attention to the negativity anymore. And whenever I pay attention online, I only see good stuff, you know. And the people at the shows, I haven't felt any negativity at all, man. Like I have nothing bad to say. We've gotten crazy tour offers. We play some crazy shows. I see my band everywhere in every platform that I can be browsing online without even thinking about. I see a picture of myself and I'm like, oh wow, like it's crazy, you know. Uh, I try to never get any of that get into my head. You know, I'm just happy to be here. Uh, it's just unreal.
Right. Yeah, and of course, like you have like a great diehard fan base, and of course they've told your stories about like how they perceive songs and how they help them through stuff. Like when fans like tell you like stories and how that they've influenced it's by you guys and inspired them. Does that like in a way like change like who you are as a person?
Know who I am. I can only relate to those stories because I have music that has helped me also, you know. So it only makes me feel even happier to be in the position I am because I am obsessed with entertaining people and I am obsessed with trying to play music so people have a good time. At the same time, I am having a good time because I love to play the drums. So if I get to play the drums and you like it, we're both happy. That makes me happy, you know? So it doesn't change who I am. It just makes me confirm that this is what I want to do. Uh, it will never change who I am. I don't think so because I'm getting to this position as I get older, and also because of my background. Like I, I, I come from nothing, very underground, not real venues. So that being said, now you can put me in the biggest stage available, and I will play the fuck out of it. But I will never change. That will never change who I am. I am well aware of who I am and where I come from. I only want to be in a big position because I've always dreamed about it, and because hopefully I would like to inspire other people that might feel lost how I felt when I was younger, you know, and music and drums gave me something to do with my life, and it has taken me around the world, and it has given me an ability to feed myself. Uh, so it's a beautiful gift that if I can share with other people and we can all be in the same room and have a good time together, that's that's the real prize. That's the real gift, you know, getting to do it, getting me as a human being, getting to play the drums at the end of the day is the real gift. Uh, I don't think it will change me. I won't allow it to change me. You know.
Totally. Okay, I got a couple more questions for you. In terms of like playing live, because seeing you live is different than just listening to you guys on CD. So is there any like differences or similarities between playing live versus CD, or they're kind of like very similar?
I think they're very different. I approach them very different. Uh, when we are recording, it's a controlled environment, right? Like we can try things as many times as we want. We have all the technology nowadays to do so. So it can be very stressful because you can hear if you're not good. You can hear it because I will play and stop it and hear and be like, yeah, that's fucked up. That's messed up. That's not correct. That being said, when you play live, you're expected to be good, but you only do it once, and then what you did, that's done. You know, so it is a different approach. Uh, Live, you can at least as a drummer, yeah, I can play all the drum parts, but if I don't put my feeling into it and my soul and my groove, it sounds stale, it sounds stiff. So yeah, we all have to approach it different, you know. When we play live, I also try to give people a new experience, a new life. I want you to feel live, right? Because it's a live band, so I want to play the drums like the record, but this is not a record. This is way different than being in the studio. There's a lot of more variables. The energy is different. The sound is different. So it is different. Yes. Now through the years of playing live and trying to learn how to connect with people in the best way, I feed from the energy of the room for sure. Like my drums are the same. They're gonna be difficult every day if I play in front of no one or a packed room. It doesn't matter. My job is the same, but I can definitely feed from the energy of the room and make it cooler. Like there's nights where I feel like everyone is jumping around. That makes me play different, because I'm like, holy shit, they can hear what the snare is and they can hear the beat. That's awesome. It is different, yes. It
Totally.
is. Do it again. Do it again. Do it again.
Yeah.
So it's completely different.
Yeah, and I noticed you also play with like a variety of different bands because I know you play with like deathcore bands like Carnifex and Whitechapel. Then I know you do tours with like Trivium, where totally different from them. And then you play with Hatebreed and Obituary, were more like hardcore and death metal and metal. But metal with playing like on these on different types of tours. Do you ever notice like a different like crowd reaction depending on the tours that you're on?
Absolutely, yeah. And that's one of the reasons why we try to do those things on purpose. We try to play a lot of different heavy versions of heavy music. We try to, because genuinely we all like all of these bands and all of that music. We all grew up listening to different types of heavy music. So we love hardcore and we love metal and we love death metal. We love trash and we want to tour with Exodus and we want to tour with Hatebreed and we want to tour with Obituary because we do like them all. So by us trying different sounds through the years, it has allowed us to getting to know all these people and to share stage and learn from them. And yes, we get different reactions from the crowds because the people that go see Trivium are not expecting the same thing as the people that go to watch Hatebreed. It's definitely Hatebreed is more of more violent than Trivium. So, but we get a little bit of everyone. Trivium fans are a fan base are very open. They just like good music and they're very welcoming. At least they have been to us. And then the Hatebreed guys, they just want heavy, badass stuff. So in theory, when you have a little bit of everyone, that's a beautiful gig because we have all these types of people here that appreciate different ways of heavy music the same way we do. So yes, we are very conscious about the type of tours that we get, and we try to make it as much as we can. And we try to go with as many bands as we can because we want to do it all.
Yeah. Yeah, and so kind of also in the end, what to wrap things up, what's next for you? Because I know we have that tour coming up with Arch Enemy, which I'm definitely going to see you in Atlanta for that. Is there just anything else with the Fit for an Autopsy or any of your other bands that you would also like to plug in terms of tours and stuff?
Sure, with Fit, we have that Arch Enemy tour that we're looking forward to. That means that we have some months to get ready, to practice those songs, to get better, work out a little bit, to be able to do it all. After that tour, we go to Europe to play some crazy festivals, some stuff that I've never done before, with crazy bands also that I can't even remember, but I am sure I whenever I check those flyers, I always find like crazy bands. I'll be like, wow, we're playing with them. So I haven't checked. I leave it to the last minute, so I have something to do. Uh, and with my bands from home, I'll be recording some drums soon. Because I'm taking a break from Fit songs for a little bit until I have to get ready for the tour. So what I will do is I'll still be playing and I'll still be active at home recording other stuff. And that helps me to not lose a little bit of this. At least I keep myself moving. So I should be recording drums for a full length for Omnifariam, and we should be finishing some other songs for another full length with Tropiezo. Now that I'm home, that I can help, I can inspire them and push them, motivate them to getting to do it, you know? So yeah, I always try to stay active and busy. Also, I like to be lazy, and now that I'm home, I just want to also have days where I don't do anything, man. Like I just go to my grandma's and just sit on the couch and talk to her and get some food, you know, because I'm never home. So whenever I can enjoy home, I will, because I don't know exactly how much more we'll do after the summer, but I am sure things are brewing and it could be a crazy year, you know, hopefully.
Yeah. But thank you, Josean, for this conversation. It's great to be able to talk with you today. It's just any final words you want to say to the viewers that are watching this to close this out?
Well, I'm always humbled and grateful for people that can, people that are listening, to people who are can be interested in whatever I have to say or the band I play in. I'm just a fan. I'm just very happy to be in this position. Very happy to share music with people. Very happy to travel the world playing the drums. I love rock and roll. I love heavy metal. I love punk. I love drums. So it's always satisfying for me to getting to talk about music and the bands I like, and the things I tell the people is like, it doesn't matter what you choose to do with your life. You can give it a shot, man. Like where I grew up, where I'm from, the idea of being a successful rock and roll drummer, it's the craziest idea. It didn't sound real. No one believed me. I heard millions of times people tell me, "You'll never do that. You'll never do that." Uh, that forced me to find a different group of people to be around. I felt responsible about finding where I was able to accomplish these things that I wanted to accomplish. Uh, that being said, just try to follow your dreams. It might be hard. It might be not be exactly how you imagine them, but the important thing is to do those things. Success is welcome, and that's a beautiful thing, but it's not everything. The real gift is getting to do what you like to do. Even if you need to find another job in the side to have our actual life, that's better than not doing it, you know? So it doesn't have to be drums, it doesn't have to be touring, it could be anything that you want to do with your life. Push through it, you know? Try to do it. I thought I wasn't going to do these things. And I know a lot of people that I've had these conversations with that felt the same, you know? So it's very important for me to insist in telling people that try to do what you like.
Indeed. So everybody, Josean Orta from Fit for an Autopsy, and we'll see you next time.